So thanks, guys. We're going to go ahead and get started. We have about 20 people signed up, so people might be trickling in. This is going to kick off our series, our Grid Investment Network 2022. It's on Tuesdays, 5:30. We're going to be talking about how to find and market deals. So we got two great guests, Lisa Hancock, which I've known for, or who I've known for a while, and she works directly with buyers. She's part of a wholesale team that does about 30 to 40 a month. So good to have her on the call. And then Jared Fosnot, who is with Washington Capital Partners, where you're going to find the funds to buy these off-market or market deals that you find. And also, Jared has connections with other wholesalers, and we'll be talking about his HQ deals, which launched. I guess you had a few ventures, but this one relaunched, I think, sometime last year. So let me go ahead to the next slide. So a little bit about myself. I'll do a little intro, and then I'll open it up to the other participants. My name is Nick. I'm a buy hold investor. Carlos likes to say investor at heart. Just happen to sell real estate. My background's in finance, so I worked for Citibank and PNC Bank for a number of years, and also owned real estate and sold my rental properties and made $100,000. I was like, man, if only I could teach and show and do transactions more than just selling one house. And now, fast forward 5 years, I'm on a team that helps 200 people do this, make and gain properties and sell properties. So excited to be on here, excited to learn what other people are doing. I'm currently just gathering information, might need a lender I'm looking for, or maybe we're considering buying in another state. So just trying to get my network around there. So without further ado, I'll introduce our co-host, or my co-host, Carlos Garcia.
Yeah, so I work with Nick on the Garcia real estate sales team. I'm one of the owners of the 3 DC Keller Williams offices on Capitol Hill in Adams Morgan and Upper Northwest. I'm a former attorney and a buy and hold investor. Haven't done much flipping, but I've been buying and holding since '96, and then I'm just a busy feet on the street realtor, and I'm curious about flipping, because I certainly would know what to do, because I've renovated plenty of properties. My wife's an interior designer. I'm really comfortable with it, very opinionated about, finishes and what consumers want now. Space planning in particular is a hot issue for me, especially in the city where things are tighter and every inch counts. I would say that I have been heretofore a Pied Piper for buy and hold investors. And then Jared knows, because Jared's tried to help me, tried to push me along to be a developer. Was looking at doing a condo project with him, and he was financing me, but I chickened out, sold it to a real developer. And then actually recently sold one of my buy and holds to a developer rather than developing it myself. So that's one of the reasons I'm part of this club, is to be around people telling these stories about taking those calculated risks, including, very much so Jad. Jared, do you do that yourself, by the way, Jared? Any
investing in general?
Yeah, in real estate.
Yeah, a little bit of rentals, and the occasional flip, but it's pretty rare these days. Just trying to run the business. The lending business takes up most of my time. So, and then with the little guy.
Now things are getting more complicated. Yeah, so it's hard to sometimes, especially if you've got a good thing going, sometimes Nick and I talk about this all the time. It's called the focus risk. You know, you shift
So
your
true.
focus, and there's some risk. You could get whacked, you know, bang, whacked in the head for not keeping your head up. But then again, we know people who manage to drive in multiple lanes. I mean, it sounds like Lisa, you do that, and so I'm sort of trying to creep out a little further on the branch and do some more sort of short money stuff that gets you paid this year, next year, rather than what I'm doing, which is like really, really decades long. My buy and hold is long. I'm not like holding for 7 years. You know, I'm holding, goes into my estate. Entities and children, you know, nonprofits and children will inherit my real estate. So that's my background. And so what I'm trying to say is that with Nick, I lead this thing, but like, I'm also trying to use it as a way for me to, you know, keep hearing stories and be around people who are doing some things I'm not doing that I would like to be doing on real estate sales. And then the last thing I'll say is our sales team, the one that Nikki and I are on together along with Shane, is very successful. This year, if we can do it, fingers crossed, it'll be the 10th straight year that we sold over 100 million, because we've done it for 9 straight. We did about 130, maybe 125. I think some December deals might have pushed into January, so around 125, 130 in 2021. That's me.
Awesome. Anybody want to shout out? What's your niche? What are you looking for? Open the floor up, Rich. Val.
I want to shout out.
Oh, hey, Bernetta.
I want to shout out Jared. I've been going to his meetup since like 2013.
It's been a
Jared,
while.
what's that?
I said it's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah. Jared's been hosting meetups for Keller in the Keller Williams building in Falls Church forever. And he actually gives you like free, like these fancy free WCP hats. And sometimes they'll do like water coolers, and they bring like turkey sandwiches. So Jared is like one of like a top dog host for me. I've learned a lot of stuff from him. So I'm excited that he's a speaker today. And obviously shout out Lisa, who keeps making people pay for both sides of the deals. Thank you, Lisa. God forbid Market Pro, you know, chip in and help pay for some of the closing costs. So thank you guys very much for hosting, Carlos. And that I'm gonna sign off at 6. I'm taking my general contractor exam next Wednesday. I've failed it now twice. It's considered the hardest exam in Virginia. So
Wow.
please pray for me, Lisa and Jared and Carlos.
It's
like
harder than the bar exam, which I know you've done.
It's way harder because the bar exam, at least you know what they're talking about. But like with gypsum and drywall, and you know, what are they talking about? You know, and then there's handicap related. You just can't bullshit the general contractor exam, because everything is like, is it like, for instance, a nail in the drywall? Is it 5/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch? So
You can't just say, like in law school, we used to say, what would a reasonable man do?
what are you whispering? And you could bullshit. But with contractor exam, like, so we'll see how it goes. I'm taking my class B. So we'll see how
Good
it
for
goes.
you, man. You
Yep.
constantly
Good
amaze.
luck.
I need it. It's one of the hardest exams I've ever taken. It's 9 subjects. It's masonry, cement, gypsum, drywall, painting, general carpentry, and finished carpentry. And so it's hard.
And
Anyways, thank you very much for hosting. Jared, thank you for coming on today and sharing your thoughts. Obviously, you and Lisa are killers in the wholesale game and in financing. So I'm excited to hear you guys talk.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? What's your niche? Are you looking for deals, Jad?
Yeah, I mean, every day,
Every day. Good.
every
Are you
day.
sub-
But, I just bought, the inflation thing scared the shit out of me. So I bought 4 rentals out in Stafford, and I'm refinancing. I did the BRR. I bought them for like between $200,000 to $250,000. They said that if you didn't give yourself a 10% pay increase, then you were losing money. So I took all of my, took all of the gains, and I put voucher tenants in there, and now I'm refinancing out of them. So I'm flipping a house currently right now in Broad Run, Virginia, and just, you know, here we are. I think, you know, last thing before I go is this. I think since I flipped so many houses, you start to develop something called PTSD. And I think that like there's houses that you talk yourself out of because you've had bad experiences. And I liken it to a person who's like had his heart broken by a woman, you know, let's say, and she like broke his heart, shattered it. And then when the people are like, well, this woman's perfectly fine. But since you've had your heart broken, you are very skeptical about dating other people. And I think it's the same thing with flipping. Once you've had like a disaster happen, like a flooded basement, or you know the roof collapse, or a low appraisal by 50,000, you start to, instead of pulling the trigger on things, you start to talk yourself out of stuff. And I hate that I'm going through that phase right now. It kind of sucks. So
You're traumatized.
it's
Yeah,
it's
you have to,
traumatizing.
if you have to do it. Thanks, Jed. Kenny, Nicole, Netta, do you want to just chime
Hi.
in?
Can you hear
Hey,
me?
Netta. Yeah, I could hear you. How are you?
Oh, I'm good.
How's the new house?
The new house is great. I just wanted to tune in because I wanted to learn more about the process of purchasing another home, maybe in North Carolina, where I could probably fix it up and rent it out to college students. And I know I'm kind of headed for a disaster type of situation, but there are college students that need these type of housing, and their parents who want their kids out of the house, who
Right.
could possibly pay the money to rent these houses out. And I just wanted to get more information in reference to buying houses. And since I just purchased my house in September, I wanted to know more about how the loan process will go, by me getting another loan to purchase another house. How would they see that? What kind of things they look for? Is it too soon, or and stuff like that. So
Perfect. Well, that's a great example, Jared, with Washington Capital Partners. He provides the money for rentals. So he might have some great products to go in. And Jared, if you don't mind, Jared and Lisa, if you wanted to drop your contact info on the comments, and anybody that shares, Netta, if you wanted to share your contact info, or just put what you're looking for, North Carolina rental.
and I'm still at work right now, so
Okay,
I'm kind
no
of
worries.
sneaking on the Zoom.
All right.
So I might have to log off real quick if I hear keys or something coming around the corner. So,
Okay. Man, you're there late.
but I wanted to get into this session, and maybe the next session I'll probably just leave a little earlier so I can at least complete the whole session.
Okay. Well, glad to have you on for the first part.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to go before we get started? What you're looking for, and you could always do it, chime in. We always like to be interactive on these. Oh, is that Nick Bush? Oh, it says Alex. I was so confused.
No, that's his lookalike cousin, Alex
Okay.
Alfaro.
Man, he's probably not even listening to us. Look at him smiling. Yeah, you're muted.
He's communicating with his 5,000 friends on Facebook.
I know. 5,000. All right, anybody else want to go real quick? Kenny, Alex, Val? I see Choke here. Hey, Choke. All right, let's get started. If you feel like chiming in, go ahead.
I'll just say one thing, that we might expect people to start joining slowly, because Shane has alerted me that people, for some reason, are having glitches getting into Zoom today. So he's
Yeah,
working.
Carlos, 7 people have commented that that they can't log in.
Yeah, so he's working on that.
Oh, hey, Fitz. Thanks for joining. So Important legal stuff, disclaimers like we go through, we are not experts in legal matters. So any content that we do discuss is through us, and it's our personal opinions. Take it as is. So just have to go through that. So I wanted to start off before going into wholesaling. The NAR statistic for last year just came out. So if we're talking about deals, where did the deals come from last year? 87%, so not 100%, buy houses through an agent or broker. 90%, and then on the flip end, where do people sell houses? Is on the market, right, through an agent or broker. Maybe some of them were off market, and then 7% just sold it on their own, for sale by owner. And most of the time, if they did sell it FSBO, it was to a neighbor or someone like that, 50%. So I just wanted to open this up about finding deals, and I feel that the wholesale game is pretty good here in DC. I mean, we have some big wholesalers. I'm right now in California, just for travel, and there's really not, except for that guy Tarek. There's not big wholesalers out here, but luckily we do have some. So I don't know if anybody want to chime in with a thought, but bottom line is most deals are on the market. So nothing wrong with getting a house that's listed on the MLS. So getting into wholesaling is basically the process of finding a good deal and putting it under contract and selling the rights to the contract to another investor. So read that pink line again. Process of finding a good deal. So it's got to be a good deal, bottom line. I can't stress it enough. You got to know the market, and that's why, Jad may or may not make money, because you have to find a good deal. So if someone's selling it for 800,000 wholesale, doesn't mean it's a good deal. So what you have to find out, and what we'll talk about, and people will chime in, is a good ARV. It's gotta be below market. Someone once told me you're trading price for convenience. The less convenient it is to sell a house, you got tenants in there, you got asbestos, the roof is leaking. That's not convenient for a seller or for a buyer. So the price is going to have to go down. If the roof is perfectly fine, there's no tenants in there, it's staged and marketed, that basically means that it's easier and it's more convenient. So the price is going to go up. So just bear with me 5 minutes, and I'm going to get into our guests. So the math is, you buy, and this is some background information. So you find out the ARV is $1 million. The rental cost is 200. How much do we solve? How much do we buy it for? How much do we wholesale it for? And how much do we charge? So if you back into it, the ARV, you might do 70% minus the renovation. So 70% of $1 million is 700,000, right? And then you minus the rental cost, which, you get a contractor there, 200 grand is 500. So you should probably buy it for, let's say, 450 and assign a wholesale fee of 50,000. So that's what you could buy it for right off the spot, 450. It's tough. You got to really find obviously a seller that's motivated in a sticky situation to make 50,000. Short sales, issues equals money. Some of the questions people ask: do I need a real estate license? No, you don't need a real estate license to do this, and it's actually recommended that you don't. It is legal, so you're just assigning the rights to the contract. The legalities of it is that you're in earnest in buying the property and then trying to sell it to someone else. You get paid by making sure that you agree with the seller to buy it for less than what you're going to sell it for. Where do you find buyers? Good question. You create a buyer list. You go to networking events like this. How much money? So a lot of people want to know from Market Pro, and I was talking to Lisa, like, what's your magic? You know, you sell 40 houses a month, Lisa. How do you do it? Where do you find these freaking deals? And it starts with capital and reputation. I guess it's capital and reputation. Capital, you gotta spend money to make money. Mailers, commercials, flyers. You see them on the bus. I see them on my commercials. I see them everywhere. And then reputation. They have a great reputation, and they create smooth processes, and they make sure they deliver a good, at least vacant product.
Yeah.
So these are just some of the questions. I don't know if you had any more before I introduce our guest today.
I think you should do it.
All right, sounds good. So without further ado, keep those questions. We like to be interactive. Without further ado, I'm going to let Lisa Hancock from Market Pro take it from here. And I didn't update this slide, so it should probably be more like 600 homes per year.
No, I mean we're about 400.
Okay.
400. Just in the DMV. Of course, if you add in like the Philly area, then we're obviously going to be more, which is an area that we just started. So to everybody that doesn't know me, my name is Lisa Hancock, and I work for Market Pro Home Buyers. I have actually worked with them for a long time. Since 2012, I was their first employee. I can say that a lot of our success is that we started off flipping houses just like, 95% of my buyers. So we started off in 2012 with the two owners, and I was their first employee. And we bought our first property from the auction, and didn't go so well. We ended up finding that we actually had purchased the wrong house. We got stuck with tenants, the people in the house, and we inherited a ginormous water bill. So, we tried it, and then actually we ended up buying all of our properties back then through real estate agents. If an agent found us property, we fixed and flipped it, and we turned around and listed with that agent. So more than anything, I really understand and respect the relationship between me and agents and the buyer. And, I do a lot to protect and help build agents' business on the back end, if there's any agents that are also on this call. So obviously, we also flipped a lot of properties. We were the second largest on the East Coast. So we flipped over 300 houses, and but right around 2016, 17, there weren't any more houses to buy in the market. All those REOs and foreclosures and short sales and all those deals were pretty much gone. So we tried our hat at wholesaling, and, we started off pretty small, but I really feel like I got thinking about what Nick said, that there's a lot that goes into it, and us having that fix and flip background. So anytime one of the acquisition guys was able to go into the house and look at the pictures, like, we knew a renovation cost, we knew the area. Flipping 300 houses just in the DM, not even in Virginia, back then we were only in DC and Maryland. A lot of times the comps that we were looking at were houses that we had flipped, or we had flipped in the neighborhood. And as you can imagine now, 5 years later of wholesaling and 5 years of flipping, like, almost every time I pull up a comp in a 1 mile radius, I've either sold or flipped a house in that area. It's a lot of houses. So, I mean, that's just how we kind of came about. I have strong relationships with my buyers. I like to help them in every way. I flip houses with my kids, myself, as a little part-time thing to teach them the business. And it's very second nature to me. And just the fact that it's second nature to me, I bring that along to my buyers. I mean, I've actually worked with somebody in 2017. It was their first house. They bought a small condo, and now they are doing apartment building in DC. So, you know, everybody comes a long way. And just like we're saying, like, there's always something to learn. And Jad was talking about PTSD of earlier, in case you didn't hear, about having some bad flips. And I think that every flip that you do is a learning experience, you know, just like every contract you get. So, I mean, that's the cool thing about real estate, is it's never boring. There's basically no science. And I'm going to answer that 70% question that I saw pop up. You know, there's no science to comps. Like, you can do the best you can and say, look, this sold, and get the best ARV, which is where the agents come in, right? To help you really hone in on what the best thing to do to your flip. But, you know, real estate can sometimes be a little bit of a gamble. I did see that question that popped up about the 70% rule. I think, you know, it was, that 70% was taught, it was taught a while ago. Now, I think for hard money deals, you know, we're trying to get like an 80% to the buyers. So it may work, you know, juggle your numbers a little bit. But it just depends. I mean, obviously, if you're going to wholesale a deal, or if you're going to buy the house to flip, you want to get the best deal you can to make the most money that you can. So that's a quick intro on me and Market Pro. Yes, you know, selling 40 plus deals a month.
That's a lot of moving parts.
It is.
I think one of the cool things is that you have the front engine, and I know you work directly with the consumers, the people that buy the properties. But I think what it's cool is that you have all the back office support. Office meaning people calling, people advertising, and you're able to find those pieces of gold of people that are motivated, and motivated meaning that they want to sell but are in no position to put it on the market, right? All these properties, if they are market ready, then this isn't the best option, because wholesaling is about getting a discount. Discount means it's damaged goods. So I like that there's a reputable wholesaler that it's almost like, I wouldn't say Wikipedia, but you look it up and you look at the properties, and you could, if you're looking for a project, I think it's a good place to start. The second part is probably contacting a real estate agent like myself or Carlos to say, hey, you know, what are the comps? What would you suggest? I live in the area, or I don't live in the area. That's more important to get a real estate agent. But all the negotiation has already been done. You don't have to work with the seller. Imagine that. Thank God. Talk about PTSD. Talk you know, sellers with issues. It's very draining. So a lot of people make wholesaling sound like this new or this awesome experience. It's a lot of sweat equity. So why not take their sweat equity that they put into advertising and negotiating, and take that and run with it and do what you're good at, which is, you know, solving a problem of getting the house on the market. And I think it's really easy. You have like this online submission portal. Even I've submitted an offer, and Lisa goes, hey, you know, you got to make sure you submit these documents. So it's a very intuitive platform, and I could even pull it up here. Yeah, I think we have two questions. Where would you recommend a new wholesaler in DMV start? I lower cost areas, door knocking is cheap, so it depends on the money. But I would probably start in Prince George's County, or in counties that are more affordable, and ones that you know, and door knock. It's actually a really good time. People are home, and come up with like a letter. But I would start there. Bigger Pockets is a good online forum to look at how people have started wholesaling.
Hey, Nick, I know there's specific content that we're going to cover on the topic. I do hope that we can carve out some time on the side before we part ways, just to hear people, if they're willing, to get out there and predict where they think the market's going to go. Okay? I'm very, very curious personally. It's always something that the people enjoy. We could be wrong. None of us has a perfect crystal ball, but we all have opinions and beliefs. It'd be nice to hear what some of the folks in today's meeting think, in particular, like Lisa and Jared.
That's the side of the website for sellers that are looking to sell their properties. So obviously we have two websites, one that's, hey, are you looking to sell, for distressed sellers, and then the opposite is, my deal website, which is where I work with buyers. It's just marketprodeals.com.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, marketprodeals.com, and I'll drop that in there. So I always like to come in here. All locations. Oh yeah, you could break it out by location. And if you get on this, if you register right here, you'll be put on their email and text alerts if you want to. So anything that comes on the market, you'll be notified immediately. But I mean, they have a lot of inventory. It's kind of crazy. This is not, you know, you heard it from a friend of a friend that someone's selling a house, and if you want to buy it, just tell me, and I'll make the phone call. And it's kind of like a telephone where you have to find out. This is directly from the source. So I think that's another value add of a good wholesaler, is that they're direct. You go right on this website and it contacts a wholesaler, opposed to a Facebook group that you might see, and or a friend that you know that is just a middleman, just trying to make money off of someone else that has the contract. So often a good question is, do you have the contract to assign? And if it's no, then you know that that person's not the wholesaler. They don't have the contract. But Market Pro has the contract for all these on their website.
Yes.
I'll post that there. So what are the terms if I was looking to buy on your website or buy a deal? What are the terms? Do I have to have money? Do you guys fix anything? Do you guys take lenders if I have a lender?
So pretty basic terms. The properties are purchased as is, so there's no contingencies. We sell to the final and best offer. I think that I've made it a little easy. We added an escalation clause, so that way it gives you that flexibility that you can come in a little low and you can, escalate it a little high just in case you want to, bump your deal up. And our EMD straight across the board, and that money will come out of your closing costs. It's $10,000. The sellers, there's a couple differences between purchasing a wholesale property really and kind of buying from off market. I mean, from a MLS deal, is that the sellers, obviously, like Jad was saying earlier, do not pay any closing costs. So buyers are responsible for closing costs, both sides of the table. And here's kind of an explanation. So you'll want, if you're wondering why we do that. So when our acquisitions guy, a lady calls and she makes an appointment, I'd like to sell my house. We go out, go to the property, and maybe their situation is, I need to sell as soon as possible. The house is crumbling around me. I just need to get out. I owe $140,000 and I really need $20,000 to start my new life, right? So we would in turn purchase the property for like $160,000. And, then add on our marketing fee and our assignment fee, and then we would put the deal out. So at that point, there's no way for us to say, okay, well, let me estimate your closing cost, or let me do something like that. So that's kind of why buyers do pay closing costs both sides of the transaction, but it is something you need to factor into your offers when you're making offers. We use one title company. Like when you're closing 40 deals, not only are we just closing 40, but we get a pipeline of deals. So sometimes we're closing 50 to 60 a month, and it's just too chaotic to use, 50 different title companies. So we try and keep it as basic, as easy as possible, as transparent. It's just like, I don't want to say silly, stupid, but let's just make it easy and honest for everybody. Here's the deal. Here's what putting the deal out. Final and best here. It's usually a quick transaction, 24 to 48 hours. Put your best offer in. The contract's assigned. Your EMD would be due the following day, and that's it. Obviously, we cannot take any kind of conventional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans, because you can't build an assignment fee into those loans legally. So cash deal, hard money. And I think that's, where literally our right-hand extension is Jared at WCP. We have done deals with them for 5 years. We started off like with them. I mean, talk about the meetups. I think that the owner met one of the employees from WCP at a meetup, and we came up with this, website idea, and it's come a long way. So, we're very happy with that relationship, and I think the two of us working together has been great. So I'm honored to be on here with Jared as well. But that's just a little bit about the process. It's pretty easy. The website's easy, and the biggest key that I think is, like, that's fine. You put your offer. The offer is basic. The terms are basic. But the other thing that I think really helps is if somebody has questions, like, I'll literally get on the phone and go picture by picture with the buyer, because, I want them to do their best due diligence, or contact an agent, so that agent can go over the pictures, go over the comps, really take a look. You may think that your renovation budget or something is like 40,000. But when you really look at the comps, you realize you have to add another bedroom, and you need to put that bathroom in the basement to make that comp. So doing due diligence is really the key to getting a good deal, and making sure that you're putting in a good offer that's reflective of you making money back.
I think that's huge. Looking at the comps is huge, and equating the costs. I think last meetup we were talking about, like, renovating the attic instead of the basement, because it's included in the square footage. So something like that might change your numbers very quickly. So having an extra opinion of whether it's Lisa, myself, Carlos, always happy to look at deals and look at the numbers to see if it makes sense for you to, put this much effort in.
I do have one more thing. I know that this is about wholesaling, and while the deals just come out and, Lisa's putting out 5 deals today. Oh, here comes Lisa again with another deal. We're talking about the troubles, and sometimes, in all honesty, these sellers come with all kinds of situations, right? It's never like, oh, I just don't have time to list on the MLS. Like, they have IRS liens, or they have people living in the house that they can't get rid of, and they want to be free of it, or they inherit a property and they live in Texas, and they just want to be able to walk away from the deal and not have to clean out the house and do all this stuff. And they don't know how to do probate. Like, our transaction coordinators will, walk them through the legal process of probate. Like, they get on a conference call with them on, okay, here's how to negotiate your IRS lien, or you can't take your cat. And this is a true story. Somebody was going to an elder care facility and they couldn't take their animal, and really, honest to God, our transaction coordinator found a house. Like, so it's so much bigger than it is great just finding a good deal. And then more importantly, it's finding the best buyer that you can that you know is going to do what they say and say what they mean, so that that seller gets to really close their house and walk away from that headache or nightmare, or whatever that stress was. So it's, you know, there's a lot that goes into it. It sometimes, like you said, it just looks like it's pretty easy, but it can be tough dealing with distressed sellers.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally respect you guys a lot. And we're here in California, and you know, I checked out this house. My mother-in-law was like, oh, you know, my friend's selling her house, but she's a bit of, you know, collects stuff. Went in and literally we were so excited, we thought we could, you know, wholesale or buy it and flip it, and man, the walls were just falling in. It just was so much, and I just was, even me seeing like the worst house, so overwhelmed. Just, you know, it takes a team, and you know, it's called sweat equity for a reason. Really respect what you guys do.
Thank you.
I mean, this house smelled. I had to go home, take a shower. It was one of those, like twice. And then even when you go to sleep, you can still smell it. But you used to go to the open houses more, so you really know what I was talking about.
Oh my goodness. I used to do an open house for every property. So
Yeah.
I've done hundreds of open houses, and some, you know, I try to be respectful to the sellers, but some I just say, you know what, I'm just gonna stand out on the porch and, you know, I'll be in as soon as I can. You know, it's some of the houses are really rough. Some of the houses you only have a very small area to walk through. So, you know, you get all kinds, and people are in all kinds of distressed situations, you know, so we're happy to help them. I mean, really, it's a win for everybody.
One of the things that you said that, you know, surprises me sometimes is that I can explain to somebody how I will, as their realtor, will do certain things for them, so that they won't have to worry about it, and get them like all this money that they might, you know, be missing out on, and they will just tell me, you know, look, it's actually not that important to me. Like, what's more important to me is the peace of mind, or getting it done quickly. And so people are facing pressures, and what's in their best interest, according to them, is not necessarily what I can offer, you know, as a realtor. It's funny how that happens. But you know, it's one of those things. I mean, you've done it long enough now, Lisa, where I'm sure it no longer shocks you. You truly understand humans. But for me, I still can think of a situation last year where it just blew my mind, that she wanted to sell to her neighbor, you know, and I was thinking I was going to get her about maybe $250,000 more.
Wow.
Yeah, on Capitol Hill. You know, she just
And
wanted
you
to-
could have sold it to me, Carlos. Me.
I know, that's, do you know that, you know which one I'm talking about? It literally would have been a wonderful house.
Yeah, $250,000 I could have
Sorry
saved.
that I let that slip. But I just wasn't like what she was speaking a language, and I couldn't hear it, because that's not the language as a realtor, you know, that I speak. But I'm sure that you would have recognized what was going on, Lisa, like this. But the conversations I have with people are not typically that along those lines. They're a little different. But you're managing to find people who want to have that conversation, and I think that that's really special.
It's a hard, you know, it's really hard right now, and people are faced actually with all kinds of situations, all different kinds of situations. And, you know, at the end of the day, if it helps to ease their stress and this is what they want to do, you know, it's my job as, you know, dispositions is to just really find the absolute best buyer, so that we get to close and that person can just walk away from the property, or you know, move in. A lot of people are moving in with family. They just want to let go of that house that's been a mess, and they have been able to upkeep, and they're moving in with their kids. A lot of elderly people are doing that. So yeah, I mean, it's a different world, and it's consistently revolving into new scenarios that we keep getting going through with COVID and stuff like that.
All right, so segueing, thank you, Lisa. Always appreciate you here. I did drop your phone number and website there. Highly recommend picking her brain. If she's always very open to sharing, as this is a network. You know, she's here to grow with us. So thank you, Lisa, again, for coming on, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in person one of these days.
I know. Well, thank you for having me. It was my honor.
All right, thanks, Lisa. And now we have Jared with Washington Capital Partners, one of our great partners in the space, the lending space. They do a lot of volume. They're very well known. Reputation is key with lenders, right? Whether they're going to perform, but be more about the relationship, how they treat you as a client, the options they give you when you're looking to buy a rental, a flip, and the resources. You know, where could we go to learn about how much it's going to cost? It could get very consuming, and people might not be as forthcoming that are lenders in the hard money, private money space. Private money, money means it's coming from someone, an investor or an individual. So it could be cutthroat, but Jared is definitely the opposite, very personable, and super glad to have him on the call. So Jared, thank you again for joining our wholesale meetup today.
Absolutely, Nick. Carlos, both of you, great to see you. Lisa, obviously it's a pleasure. Thanks for those kind words. We love working with you as well. Yeah, for everybody that doesn't know myself or Washington Capital Partners, my name is Jared Fosnot. I'm the director of sales here. Similar to Lisa, we actually have very similar storylines at our companies. Like I was the third or fourth employee, kind of lose track. I think it was technically the fourth employee, first salesperson at the company. The original two owners were heavy in the real estate space. One of them being an agent, Leo Perea, and the other being Daniel Huertas. They were doing a lot of flips and realized that you know, they could parlay that into some lending as well to kind of keep capital moving. You know, and Washington Capital Partners was born almost 10 years ago, or rather, excuse me, a little over 10 years ago now. A little bit more about my background, and I'll jump back into WCP. I'm an attorney by trade, graduated law school, and started down the road to, you know, the legal profession. Realized that it was a terrible decision, had a little bit of an epiphany, and said, you know, I don't want to be on the legal side. I want to be on the business side, you know, structuring deals. And as much as I love the law and the analytics that go with that, the business side is so much more exciting to me. So I took that and I parlayed that into a position as a general counsel at a local development shop. For those that have been around for a long time, you may have heard like Walnut Street. They were one of the first groups like really heavily doing it in like 2011 to 2013 on the single family flip space. And so I started there as a general counsel, and over time I kind of jumped to different roles, but eventually I led their acquisitions team and bought hundreds of homes with them. Also wholesaled a heck of a lot of homes, started that off, built a small lending business for them in like the last year that I was there. We did like 4 million, so it wasn't anything huge, but at the time it was a fair bit. And the two partners there started winding things down in 2015 and kind of saw the writing on the wall. Had been friends with Leo and Daniel for many years, doing the wholesale kind of stuff. and decided to go into the lending business, and just saw it as a really big opportunity to scale a business. Similar to wholesaling, you know, there's so many advantages to lending as a business model, you know, and as much as I love, you know, construction and all of that goes into it, we kind of saw similar things, you know, that Market Pro did in their time on that side of the business. And it's just, you know, it's tough, and there's, you know, there's a lot of ways to make money doing it, but it's tough to scale it, you know. So for us, that was lending. So came over in 2015. They had been around for 5 years, not doing much. I think 2015, we finished the year at 20 million in origination. And then we have since doubled or tripled our business year over year. And this last year, we finished at 375 million. So we're definitely the largest real estate lender in the Mid-Atlantic. We're kind of like a mega regional group. We have not historically lent really much outside of DC, Maryland, and Virginia, with the exception of maybe Pennsylvania. But over the last year, we've kind of made the decision to start to grow nationally. And so it's been a whole new process and a whole new avenue that we've been kind of seeking out to grow nationally. And then so over that year or so, we're now in pretty much all of the states on the East Coast, as well as Texas. And we're growing westward. So looking to go into a whole new set of states. You know, we're looking at Ohio, Nashville, Kentucky, Alabama. So a lot of new states, and just bringing kind of the same things that have made us successful here in other states. And we're looking, and we're actively partnering with amazing groups like Market Pro Homes in these new markets as well, like Philadelphia. So yeah, I mean, it's been a heck of a ride, and it takes you know, every bit of my precious daylight hours, but it's truly rewarding, and it's just fun to build a company. So
it's
yeah.
almost like you're uprooting not uprooting, but changing communities, right? Providing housing, the lending piece, which, you know, on a state level or is very hard to get, but at a level like yours, you know, it's easier to provide funds for renovation, where you're actually building communities, better houses, safer houses, you know, neighborhoods. So I think it's a huge impact, and I just think of Philly as like almost like my second home. That's where I bought my first house, and there are so many distressed houses. It's almost like a bigger Baltimore. And I think there's huge potential. They're historic, they're beautiful, they're charming. It just, you know, it needs a lot of investors to help it grow. And to have you guys there is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big it's a big plus. It's, you know, it's definitely one of the reasons that make this job so rewarding, just being able to see your impact on the community, kind of like Lisa said. You know, as she's running comps, it's like, you know, she could probably see, you know, every deal like in the same area where she's running comps, and it's very similar to our story. You know, I don't think that, you know, I think at this point we've probably done a loan on every single street in DC proper. You know, we know it like the back of our hands, and it's pretty cool to have had that level of market penetration in one area. And what we're realizing is, you know, all of our competitors nationwide, you know, they've kind of taken the shotgun approach, and they've said, all right, we're going to be, you know, 100% of the places in the country, but we're just going to do a sprinkling over everywhere, and we're going to try to get the lowest hanging fruit. And we went the opposite route, And we've tried to go as deep as we possibly can in one kind of key MSA in the country, completely dominate, and we shut out most of the competitive like the national lending competitors. There's a couple like local folks that, you know, have to literally live on the fringes of what's even allowable in order to compete with us. And so now we're looking at like growing nationwide. How do we just pick up this model that we've done so well in and just drop it into every other MSA where we can go and build that same level of community, which helps drive that depth. And it's through partnerships with groups like Market Pro. You know, you have to have the wholesaling community. You have to have a community like this, like Grid. I mean, that's why we partner with Rob Chavez and Grid and you guys. You know, this all is infrastructure as we see it to go deeper in every market. And you know, we're just happy to be a part of it.
So I know a couple of people on this call in particular might want to better understand how someone turned off my camera. Oh, I see, I saw my face, that's Shane. That's Shane looking like me. I'm thinking like Nick Bush. You still there, buddy? You were so still, I couldn't tell if that was a photo of you or you.
No, yeah, I'm here.
A guy like Jared, so Nick is a big time realtor. A guy like Jared could help a buy and hold investor of yours who wants to grab an opportunity to buy a property and can show him a reasonably well thought out pro forma, how he's going to make it cash flow well. By the way, Brian, who's a client of mine, who's a buy and hold guy, he could help you do that, where either there's a need for speed or the thing just doesn't fit the parameters of what, you know, Bank of America or whomever it is you're talking to needs it to fit in. And so you need to get from A to B, and you'd be surprised how attractive the rates are. So whether that's for you, Nick, or for one of your clients, or in Brian's case, for you, Brian, like I know right now, Brian, you've got a good VA deal. You're going to do that. You're going to take the best, lowest hanging fruit on in terms of what the lending market can offer you. You're going to run with that, but you're the kind of guy who thinks about the next deal. So this is the kind of institution that can help you think through, you know, what it is you're trying to do, and if it makes good sense. And that's one of the things I like about Jared and his guys. They're like thought partners. They really know real estate. I mean, you hear his background, right? I mean, he's been in, you know, on every side of this business, looking at the real estate. So there could be a scenario where without Jared, like, you know, you don't get to make that sale, Nick, or Brian, you don't get to make that purchase. And then of course, you know, they're working with developers, which is just knowing what I know about you, Nick, is a little less likely immediately. But in the you know, I don't know, the near term, you could be working with guys and gals who want to flip a house or maybe even get into condo projects, and they need to get good funding. You know, back in the day, people in Jared's segment, you know, double digits, you know, interest rates. I mean, they were really, really high. But you know, it's a very competitive market, and these guys are very competitive on the rates. You'd be surprised, you know, what a borrower can do. And in many cases, it's a solution until you get to your next stage in the process. If you're flipping a house, can you maybe only hold it for 6 months anyhow? And clearly, if you're you know, renovating something to buy and hold, you're gonna use Jared on the front end to get that purchase loan and maybe some construction money, and then you're going to refinance out of it with, say, Bank of America or some household, you know, normal lenders, provided it's, you know, under 4 units or under, right? The buy and hold.
Yeah, Carlos, I think this is a really good point. I mean, there's the reality is that money is a commodity, you know, and if we're solely focused on, you know, just our rates, which are extremely competitive, you know, it's surprising. I mean, you'll lose, and it has to come down to selling on value, you know, and if I'm not providing a certain amount of value, then, you know, I'm kind of I'm commoditized, and it's like, why would you even want to work with me over anybody else that you could go talk to? And so I think that the people that have been borrowing money from groups like ours or even banks understand how important it is that the representative of that organization that you're dealing with is attentive, is knowledgeable, is going to be able to get back to you at really any hour of the day. I mean, that's the kind of benchmark that everybody should be looking for. And the difference between, I mean, like, you could be working at the same group, you know, at the same company for many institutions, and have one experience with one rep and another with another. So it's really key, you know, that's why like value selling for me is so huge. And obviously being able to compete, which we can on the rate side. And we've been able to do that because we've really institutionalized our business. We've gone and got, you know, Wall Street money, so to speak, you know, from big institutions like billion-dollar funds.
Yeah, like part of what I'm trying to tell you, Nick, is that, like, you know, as you learn more and more about how to present a deal to a potential client, then you'll learn that you want to learn more about that. And so, like, if you were to connect a client who knows that he can't go with some conforming investor product to get into this place that he wants to flip, or that he wants to, you know, buy, you know, improve as a buy and hold, then you should try to participate in the phone call between one of Jared's guys and your client, so that you can hear what it is that they're basically needing from your clients to look at a deal and go, yeah, like we would consider that. In other words, you can learn from them. And the thing is that, like, what's a good deal? Well, you know, it's a deal that a smart lender will fund. What's a crap deal? It's a deal that a smart lender won't fund. And what you're trying to help is your clients get into good deals. So what I'm saying is that not, you know, these guys are, I think they're very high-minded, very cerebral, very thoughtful people who communicate well within this sector. It's a chance for the realtor to sort of learn. And certainly same thing goes for you, Brian. You know, and I know you're well on your way because you're so studious, Brian, in the way you look at your investments. But it is a chance to learn from these guys and then do deals.
Yeah, and Carlos, I just want to say that it's crazy how you even say that, because I am here to get the language down packed and understand like what I need to be looking out for and listening for, and how to structure and present a deal. Because honestly, for me, especially in DC, with the condo conversion projects and the comps being so street by street in certain areas in the city, it could be a little, you know, a little overwhelming to kind of say like, hey, this is what this will sell for. You know, if you buy here, you know, spend this much money, this is what it'll sell for. So really being able to understand the numbers from like the loan side and the ARV is like kind of why I'm here to listen.
And then if you're talking to plugging into a network like Jared's, then now you're also hearing about contractors, about architects, you're hearing about expediters, and you know, and on and on and on. Because they want that, you know, okay, they like your guys or gals, your clients' idea, but now they want to make sure they're going to do it with good people. It's, you know, the money cares, right? That the deal makes money sense. So it's like there's brain power in that organization, not just funding. That's my main point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're looking at pro formas, you know, for every deal, really. Even if it's the smallest deal, you know, it's a little single family flip. We have our own pro formas that we'll run the numbers through and just look at it and say, you know, is this going to actually make money? And sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't. And we also take the narrative into account, like, is this going to be a rental, you know, and maybe it doesn't need to have as big of a margin, or whatever the case might be. But yeah, I mean, we're trying to be a mentor and an advisor to our borrowers. I mean, if we were just doing this to, like, you know, do another loan, I mean, I could put so many people into so many loans that just would lose the money and have no, you know, like, I could do that and make a lot more money doing that. And I can tell you, like, that's not the business that we're in. We want to help people. We want people to keep coming back, because they do want, you know, if somebody does a bad deal, loses everything, and then it's like, well, this was a terrible experience, I'm never going to do this again. You know, we've, you know, potentially you know, added to them maybe not continuing to pursue their goals, their dreams, you know, but just, it's just not a good look. That's not what we're about. So, yeah, that's a big piece of it.
And you do a lot. I mean, I listed out here, I did 2 different ones, you know, 1, what types of products, and then 2 is, you know, how they could get started. And this is all on your website.
Yeah,
or you
it's
just
all on our
reach out
website.
there.
I really encourage it. Please, I mean, I dropped my information in the chat, so definitely reach out to me. We've got pretty much every product under the sun, including a 30-year rental product. We've got 3, 5, 7, 10-year arms that are interest only. We're probably about 2 to 3 months away from having a up to 50 unit multifamily rental product. So, you know, got a lot of stuff that we can offer people, and a really easy system. You know, it's really not very formal of a process. Like, you would work with myself or one of my loan officers, and you basically develop a relationship with them, and they're kind of your advisor. They're there for you whenever you need it. And that's the company culture that we have. And, you know, it's just a very transparent and smooth process. So. Any questions,
Yeah.
just in general, about products, rates? I mean, just structures. I mean, you name it. I'm happy. You just throw anything at me.
I have one question, Jared. For you to lend to do you have, you know, for you to lend money to someone, do they have to have a certain financial profile? Are you looking for a certain credit score? You know, a certain amount of deals done? Like, do they already have done deals? How much cash do they typically need for you to work with them, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, we do loans with people that have never done a deal before, all the way up to being, you know, some of the largest developers in DC who you would never think in a million years would come work with a company like ours, who are 100% bankable and could go to any of the local banks, or the Eagle Banks, the Capital Bank, you know, Main Street, any of those guys. They come to us for speed and for the flexibility that we add, you know, that we provide them, higher leverage, whatever those things may be that a bank can't. So you'd be surprised at the type of deal structures that we can do, the type of bars that we can lend to, some that have no experience at all, and we can get creative with it. We're still at a size where we're not so institutionalized, where it's like, you know, like most of these nationwide lenders, where it's like, here's the credit box, this is exactly what you have to fit into it, and if you don't, see you later. You know, we're still at that really nice size where we have a lot of that flexibility left. Even credit scores, we've got a pretty fair amount of flexibility there. And, you know, we can always partner people together to help with the credit, to help on the FICO requirement. So, you know, we're looking to build creative solutions. You know, there is a rough credit box, but you know, it's not so tight as to just kick deals out. You know, just if they're not exactly where they need to be.
Thanks.
I think 2 big topics to piggyback is rates and your predictions, or what you're hearing, and then that'll segue into the market in 2022. What's going on with the rates? Is it hitting you as hard in the residential space as in the residential space?
No, that's the beauty of our business model. I mean, the Fed funds rates, you know, and any movement on the Fed's part, and just mortgage rates in general on the residential side, has no impact on our business. We raise private capital, you know, for $1. and we lend it out for, you know, $1.50, and that's that, right? And so really our business model works to the extent that we can raise money for, you know, the cheapest possible rate that we can get. And therefore there's no floating rates. Like, you know, we're not tied to LIBOR or something like that. So,
what I'm hearing is investor confidence is still remaining steady. Investors, as in people that are funding or groups that are funding these deals.
yeah, it is. I would say that there's definitely more caution going into 2022 than there was 2021. There was a lot of froth. There was a lot of really just very high expectations for 2021. And I mean, it was one of our biggest years. You know, I don't know about Lisa on her side, but, you know, it was probably a lot of people's biggest years. And 2022, I think people are just saying, I think people are just asking, like, can it continue at the level, at the pace that we're going? Everybody knew we were coming out of the pandemic very strong, you know, or at least the bottom of the market in 2020, pretty strong into 2021. And now there's just, you know, from what I've seen, just questioning, you know, like, okay, are we gonna see a recession? What's gonna happen? How is that tied to the Fed raising rates? The big thing I see, I think that's just more questioning, and, like, you know, it's speculation. Nobody knows, right? Nobody could tell you for sure. I think that's more on a nationwide level. I think the big trend that we're seeing right now, absolutely right this minute, is a little bit of a slowdown on condo units in the city. We're seeing that soften up a bit, and, you know, even units that were not quite as highly, you know, not even penthouse units, right, that are trading for like $7 to $1 million. Even stuff a little bit less than that is kind of a little soft right now. And so what I'm seeing a lot of our investors starting to do is a lot of people are starting to turn to leases, right? They're starting to turn to long-term rentals. And so that's kind of the big trend that I'm seeing. And we're seeing it in our products as well, right? We're seeing an uptick in the number of 30-year rental loans that we're doing. And that's why everybody's clamoring to get this 30-year multifamily product. So whether that is just a winter thing and it's like a seasonal softening, or if it's going to really stick through to the spring, I would say we'll find out pretty soon. If it does, and we still see that through spring, I think that that's a bigger sign for our local market, and probably a little bit more concerning to me. If we see a bounce back for spring on these condos, then I'm going to feel pretty positive for the rest of the year. And that's just one micro trend, but that's kind of one that I'm seeing.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. As a listing agent, it's been harder to sell a reasonably priced condo. I think I'm starting to see a little bit more energy for them than I did in the second, say the last quarter last year.
Yeah.
But it's too early to know whether these green shoots are something that's really going to be a trend. And it does, a contributing factor is that, condos are on the smaller side as far as real estate goes, and often they don't have outdoor space, or if they do, it's very small. And, the last 2 years, I've been watching this market like a hawk since 1995. And the instruments that I had available to me were very crude when technology was inferior, and I was not a realtor. I was reading stuff. I was getting, black ink on my hands to monitor the market, but I was on it like white on rice. And I haven't taken my eye off the market since 1995. And this is the first time, the last 2 years, where, you have a year, like almost every one of those years, where the market's growing, meaning median pricing's going up, and the city is behind the metro area as a whole. So you got the metro area, you know, appreciation rate will be here. You have certain suburbs is up here, and then the city is below the metro area as a whole, i.e. it's dragging it down. You know, Washington, D.C., the city is appreciating less than its metropolitan statistical area is. And like that's totally exotic in the history of the last, say, 25 years in DC, during which we've had this, you know, renaissance downtown. And so I think that's a factor. I think that's a factor that's bringing the condos down a little bit. But I think, as you know, if COVID starts to go, I think it's a COVID factor. I think condos getting hurt is a COVID thing. You know, the suburb being so hot is a COVID thing. I don't know if you have an explanation along those lines, if that sounds like what you think is happening, Jared.
Yeah, I think that definitely plays a part in it. I don't, you know, I don't even want to speculate on what I think it is. I think that, I mean, I think we've been selling the heck out of condos for, you know, a while now. And there's, I think that there's more options with condos and how many of units have delivered. And so I think there's a little bit more pickiness that can occur. I also think some of it has to do with how well the layouts are. You know, like if you're in a great DC, like if you're in a good DC neighborhood, and the layout is a certain, you know, like the layout is a certain way that makes sense, and the space is big enough, in theory, those should still sell pretty easily. You know, there's just so many developers out there that were just like, oh wait, I can make $1 billion selling condos. Like I'm going to go crazy and just build whatever crap, you know, I can build. And there's a lot of really bad condos that people build, and not just bad in terms of quality of the workmanship, but like just not thought out units. I know a bunch of, because I mean, we see it, like there's a lot of our borrowers are doing condo projects, right? And some of them have had better luck than others. And usually the ones that didn't have as good of luck is they had some wonky layout in their condo, or like, you know.
I mean, that's usually because you're trying to jam just too many units.
Exactly. People were getting greedy, you know, and also a lot of people are trying to do more and more smaller units too. And I just don't see the same level of desire for those. Again, just being greedy, want to get as many units as they possibly can in there. So I think it's a lot of, I think it's just the market saying, you know, hey, there's enough units for me to pick from. Why am I going to pick this crappy layout? You know, and so I think that's part of it. Personally, you know, like for my own flips and stuff, I just love single families. I think that, you know, I'd rather build a team that can pump those out than do the condos, you know. And I would say that's the case for the first, like, for the time being. I mean, we'll see if it turns around, but I've just always been so bullish on, you know, single families in PG County and elsewhere, you know, that, you know, if you've got a team and crews that can turn and burn and just do a lot of those, you know, Market Pro does so well selling those. And I think that's such a tell for the market. I mean, it's rinse and repeat, you know, and you can easily make them rentals if it doesn't work and the margin's not there. And I think that's part of the reason they do so well, you know, like Lisa, I mean, jump in here and correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys aren't trying to, like, you obviously sell deals in DC, but, you know, a lot of these are just single family deals that are just, you know, solid base hits that you can just keep, you know, one after the other.
I agree. Our DC business has gone down since the pandemic, but I think that is also for a couple reasons. I think, you know, just the state of what people have to pay right now. So I don't think that there's a state of urgency, like I got to get out of my house, I don't have the money. I think it will change a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I have a handful of really high-end DC buyers, you know, it's not for everybody. You know, you either got to have, you know, $750,000 to play with, or I'm calling you and saying, let's get this guy into this. You know, they want to do a 2-unit, you know, so yeah, you know, DC is great, but you know, it's long to do those deals. But you know, I have some people that wouldn't do anything but the majority of our business is definitely going to be, you know, fix and flips, or, you know, my buy and hold has really, really, really picked up. So I'm glad you guys have that great 30-year program.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think whatever you do, you know, pick a niche. Personally, that's me. My take is always go deeper on one thing over like many things. I think as entrepreneurs, which everybody really kind of is at heart here, probably on the call, you know, there's a little bit of like the shiny ball syndrome. And it's like, oh, this looks cool, and this is, ooh, I want to go chase these different things. And I mean, if you look at some of the most successful people like in the history of the planet, they did one thing insanely well, and they just did it on repeat ad nauseum. And that's how they, you know, grew their wealth and did so well. And so there's something to be said about just holding strong, doing one thing, doing it insanely well, and just doing it over and over again to the point where you're just like, this is boring. I'm so good at it. and doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on it, even though it may sound boring or be boring, you know, rather than just chasing all the shiny balls. So that's kind of how I tried to live my short career.
Yeah.
There's wisdom in that.
I love it. I think that's a great point.
Rinse and repeat. And now's it, you know, pulling up the market stats, you know, Bright comes up with the demand index, and demand's lower than, or they call it limited demand. So now's a good time to jump in the market. Thank you, Lisa, for coming on. If you are not subscribed to Market Pro Homes, please do. I'll make sure to send it up in the follow-up email. And then Jared, thank you for joining and your spin on the market. And I'll make sure to do the HQ link as well. That is also a good resource for finding off-market homes. So thank you guys so much. Our next meeting, if I shift here, and that's the HQ, which is super cool. Don't forget, you know, this group is growing. It's only as good as the network. So we're trying to do deals within the network and bring people in. We want to share knowledge and encourage us to grow. So please share this, the meetup link or the Facebook link, whatever you want. Actually, if you didn't join the Facebook group, there's thousands of investors on there throughout the nation. Through Grid has over 50 locations or something like that, something crazy number. Next meeting, we're doing how to find and renovate fixer-uppers with one of my clients, Joe, and we're gonna have a guest lender, John Burns. And then on the 15th, 1031 exchange into other rentals, Section 8 voucher, great strategy. We're gonna be doing that in April, and then in May, how to buy good buy holds in premium rental neighborhoods. So a lot of rental series. Keep posted, and thank you guys so much. Feel free to stay on for the next few minutes, and look forward to next time.
Thanks, everybody, in particular.
Thanks, everyone.
Jared.
Guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Fritz, you still on there? Netta, you stuck around.
Yo,
Hey, Fritz, what's going on, man?
I didn't get the
Fritz!
message. No, I'm kidding. I'm just multitasking as usual. How are you guys?
Good. I'm enjoying the sun here in California. Thinking about life.
No, I like this French
Yeah.
Renaissance painting behind you.
You know, it's called a saloon. My wife's Lebanese, so they got a saloon. We're an entryway fancy spot. So this has been my
That's awesome.
office. Yeah.
Pretty fancy office.
Pretty fancy. How you doing? Carver Langston, are you selling those?
You know,
They're
it's
the
funny.
one bedrooms.
You know, I think I heard some stuff in the meeting that was very accurate. I think things are sort of turning around very fast. We're having a ton of showings just in the last like 10 days. That things have sort of turned around. Are they going to sell fast enough? Probably not.
Yeah.
But you know, we're gonna give it another couple of days and see what happens. But it's you know, even while we were in the meeting, I think I got like a non-binding reservation back or two, which is pretty amazing to get from 0 to 60. Like in less than a week, we've had no offers to like 3 potential offers.
Really? Oh wow.
Well, 2 offers and then 1 person maybe. You know, so I don't know. We'll see.
They're nice units, and I think
Good.
I was going to chime in on Carlos's point where condo market is soft, and Jared said that as well. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, prices increases have been going up, rates are going up, and I think it's going to bring people back in, saying, hey, you know, it's not unrealistic to find a house of my dreams, but let me just get a condo.
Right. I agree. I think
we
see
submitted
that.
an offer on this old stale condo, and there was 2 offers, you know, and we had to escalate. It was 375, and you know, we escalated up. So
The thing I'm seeing is that
I just want to do deals.
the thing I'm seeing is that people definitely, and hey, Fritz.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Haven't seen you since Union Market, right?
I know, right? I think I lived there.
Up to you, yeah, good spot. But I think that like mentally what's happening is consumers have accepted that rates are rising, and then now they're actually rising. Like
Right.
I got a client who was locked in on her house. She's thinking about bailing on the deal, but like it's like the rate has moved up 0.25 2 times on her since we've been under contract.
Jeez.
She's got to really
Oh my God.
reconsider, because then the next house is going to cost her more. At least the money will.
Mhm.
And so I think prior to just now, when rates actually moved up, people were already believing that they were going to move up, and then now what they're starting, but they exercise. We all exercise wishful thinking. So they were thinking, yeah, but that'll drive the prices down, and because obviously upward movement on rates does put a little downward pressure on, at least ultimately. Although initially, what they're not accounting for is that it causes people to want to grab that rate. So initially it's going to push the pricing up a little bit. That will have a negative impact, of course, you know, maybe a little deeper into the year, but probably nothing is going to relieve the lack of inventory problem. Maybe the condo market accepted from that. And so I think there's going to be some, you know, more upward pressure on pricing than there will be downward, even in the later half of the year. But I think in the first half of the year, the amount of upward pressure on pricing, in part due to people jumping into for rates, but then also low inventory. I mean, you know, I'm a realtor, so I have to be careful not to be just doing, you know, exercising, you know, wishful thinking. But I do think this. You know, I've been around the block. I've seen winters turn into, you know, the next year turn into the spring. I think it's going to be a redonkulous spring. It could be a lot like last year, where much more happens in the first half of the year than the second half. And the second half is fine too, but the first half is just ridiculous. Like too much for us as realtors anyhow, where we're going to be.
I mean, that would be, I would love to get a busy spring. It'd be nice. I think a lot of us forget that it is January, and it's, you know, things are typically slow in January, but it's, I've already seen just things moving in the other direction already. So I think, you know, we could have a very busy spring, I think. We'll see.
And, you know, it does seem like this. I mean, even I, as a realtor, I've gotten tired of talking about rates are going to move up, because as a consumer of interest rates too, you know, I'm a buy and hold guy. I'm always shopping for a rate. I mean, I've been anxious about rates rising, and like now I finally believe it, because I'm just so tired of telling people, you know, they could rise, be careful, and then they don't. But like, it really feels real this time.
Right.
Now, I know a really good loan officer who actually believes that what's going to happen after they rise is that the stock market's going to go down, and that the Fed will have to consider dropping rates again. And that's sort of above my pay grade, but something I'm starting to read for. That many companies that are trading at high valuations have been doing a lot of borrowing themselves, and that when they really have to start selling stuff again, that maybe we'll find that there's some weakness in the equities market, and that coupled with borrowing becoming more expensive could cause the equities market to sort of get off kilter. And by the way, the person is, if I'm sure you know him, Fritz, it's Greg Kingsbury.
Oh yeah, sure.
He's
Absolutely.
a smart guy.
He is pretty smart.
He's not saying it's going to happen, but he thinks that what might happen with mortgage interest rates is that they may go, well, they are going up, and then
Right.
they may level off and maybe, if go down later in the year. Of course, that will make many of us happy if our portfolios are getting whacked. Have you heard anything along those lines, Jared?
Specifically regarding a recession after rates rising, or which piece of it?
Not necessarily a recession, but that it's not necessarily the case that rates are just going to keep rising throughout the year. That some people are saying they could go up and then maybe level off a little bit, especially if the stock market starts suffering.
I think it's all driven. I think it's driven all in the market, and fear from investors will create pressure with the Fed, and that kind of will dictate how willing they are to keep increasing. I think they'll increase as long as they can, as long as the market maintains. But I think it's so tied now to just overall sentiment of the economy. It's been growing, more and more parallel over the last decade, I feel like. So yeah, I think we can, maybe it's priced in, maybe the market's priced in one bump. Maybe not, we'll see, I guess. But I definitely think that if it has priced in one, if they try for a second this year, I don't think it's going to go well. And I think they're going to have to back up and probably take a couple steps back. But it's just at this point, there's only so high that they can raise the rates. When we have so much debt as a country, it becomes really unattainable, like unmanageable to manage all the debt payments. If you raise it.
We're also used to this easy money.
We're used to the easy money. Yeah, we're on the Japan train. I personally, I think it's going to be like this stagflation forever, kind of just trapped. As long as we're willing to not let there be true corrections, and not take our medicine at a very substantial level.
And by the way, thinking that through logically, doesn't that encourage more buy and hold activity?
For sure.
Yeah, right. Maybe money will look. What do they call that? When the flight to quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Lot of factors at play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Carlos, hey, everyone, this is Brian. First time tagging up. Carlos sent me an invite, so happy to be here. Jared, I got a couple questions for you, but I was just going to say, like a month ago, not even, I was having a conversation with my lender for a VA jumbo at 2.625, and now it's 3.25 or 3.375. So I'm trying to lock that in ASAP. I got my paperwork in, so hopefully hear back soon. But I wanted to ask you, Jared, specifically on that. You mentioned a 30-year package you guys have for buy and hold. That's definitely my strategy. I want to size up in multifamily for sure. Not really in the active, fix and flip game. I have a full-time job, and that's just, I've done it. That'd be too much to keep doing up in this area. But on that 30-year package you guys have, is that like an NQM, or can you talk to me a little bit about that? I'm happy to link up for a call later in the week as well, but maybe just some specific overview.
Yeah, well, high level overview. We've got a 30-year fixed, fully amortized note. Basically 3-2-1 step down. So prepayment, it's not terrible as long as you're gonna hold it longer than 3 years. It's heavily focused on the DSCR. we're doing as low as 1.0 on the DSCR. So the cool thing about this product is, it's not a bank product, right? So we're not at 3, but the difference with this is we're not underwriting you as much as as a borrower and your debt to income ratio. It's more so the property and whether the property stands on its own 2 feet. So, it's very heavily focused on the debt to income of the property itself. And we have a lot of people just stacking as many of these as they can because they realize they go to a bank and they can only do, I don't know. I think the most I've seen somebody do is like 16 to 18 kind of range before their debt to income ratio just taps them out for bank financing on these rentals. So a lot of people do that. They'll run it up to that number that they can get, and then they'll come find us and they'll go buy, another 50 or 100 or how many more. We're working with a couple guys that literally have 1,000+ single family portfolios that are just doing these ad nauseum, and it's worked well. Our rates are more in on the low side in the low 4s, so it's a little bit more. But again, if the deal pencils, and you can get it to cash flow, and then it works. It works. So
No, that sounds great. Yeah. I just did an NQM. It was like a 4.75 rate I got on a deal in Florida. Talking with Carlos, he's my realtor here. Looking for next step is just trying to find me a place to live in the next couple months, and then I'm going to resume, more of the investing path. But one of the things I was talking to Carlos about just recently, if not yesterday, was trying to figure out. I'm fairly new to the area. I come from the Florida market where I can pretty much appraise a property myself. I've bought and sold several properties at this point and just understand Jacksonville specifically. But everything there is, that I've dealt with is 500,000 and under. But then I was talking to Carlos, and it's I don't know how to appraise a property here that once you get to that $2 million range or the $1.5 million, it's is it going to appraise at 1.4 or 1.9? I can't tell, or somewhere in between. So as far as doing, things on hard money line and calculating ARV and things like that, I guess I just wouldn't really know where to begin yet up here. So I don't know if you have any tips or tricks you guys use for that.
I mean, well, one, I would say you got to work with, it does matter who you work with as an appraiser, right? So another cool piece of this is we can use our own appraisers as the lender.
Gotcha.
We don't have to use what's called an AMC, which many lenders, use these AMCs, which are these national companies that basically just get all these appraisal requests and then they assign them to local realtors that are in their database. Excuse me, not realtors, appraisers, obviously. And a lot of these appraisers just know nothing about the investment space. They don't know the finishing grades, and how much that truly adds value. So one is you gotta have the right appraiser in whatever market you're gonna be in. So that's why we were very, very strict about who we would use when we're setting up all the agreements with our products. Because that'll impact how much of the cash you can get out. If you bought something and you're trying to value add and get the value up and then get as much of your cash out and do the old Burr method, a lot of that's going to be important. And also the LTV that you can go up to. We'll get up to 80%, which is really the top of the market right now. I don't really know of anybody doing more than 80% cash out, and so yeah, that's also important too.
Yeah, you guys are hyper local. Yeah. Cool. Well, I heard the dinner bell over there, so I may be headed in that direction. But this was great. Glad you did make it, Brian, and that you're connecting with Jared. I can connect you guys on a text or an email. You can
yeah, that would be great, Jared. I'd love to talk to you just in general. Different hard money packages, the 30-year, all that. Definitely interested. So
happy to do it. Great to connect.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Y'all take care.
Thanks again, Lisa and Jared. Good night.
Of course.